It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome in to another edition of Musso at the box. We continue along here in the LSU baseball offseason, very early in the LSU baseball offseason. We have recapped the finale when they lost in the regional final to North Carolina. We have taken a step back, looked at the season as a whole, what went wrong, how they fix it today. We look at the guys who were tasked with fixing that. Our first, way too early, and let me emphasize that, way too early look at the 2025 roster. What guys do you have? What are you replacing? Transfer portal needs. Guys who have already entered the portal, because there was another one jumped in there on Wednesday. There's a lot. Recruiting. There's a lot to look at with this in the 2025 roster. But again, it is the first week of June when we're doing this. The season just ended for them. A lot of what we talk about today in terms of, who could fill positions of need, not set in stone at all. We will do this again after the draft passes, and we'll have a much better grasp on what things might look like. But this is part of the offseason. Very early on, you look and say, all right, where are they in the immediacy of the offseason? And that's what we will do today. So y'all smash the like button. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Get subscribed to your favorite podcast app. Follow me on social media. Like, share, all those things. Greatly, greatly appreciated. So in diving in, one thing that we've said plenty since the season ended, is to expect plenty of roster turnover. I would go as far as to say expect the most roster turnover you've seen in the Jay Johnson era so far, for a couple of different reasons. One, college athletics continue to change. Two, you have a lot of guys who are out of eligibility on this team, a lot of guys who are draft eligible on this team. And that's not necessarily new, but you also have a lot of guys who just have decisions to make about their own future in baseball at LSU or not. There's when you have the type of season that LSU did, where you struggled early on, or really for like a large majority of it, a month out of the year, you struggle and then have to go on the run. There needs to be some type of change. And I think when you look at this, you see some guys who were very highly touted, but maybe necessarily haven't developed as quickly or as swiftly as the coaching staff would like, and there's tough conversations that need to have. I'm not saying you need to have a complete and total overhaul, because you still have really good pieces with those highly touted guys. It's just, can you get them to take the next step? That's a lot of what we talked about in what went wrong for LSU in 2024. When you add all of that together, just the normal attrition that you would have, plus, needing to maybe get some fresh faces in to take that next step. Again, things of that nature, and you could see an awful lot of turnover here with LSU's roster. Starting out just with the guys who are out of eligibility, there's 7. Ben DePaul, Alex Milazzo, Hayden Travinsky, Mac Bingham, Nate Ackenhausen, Christian Little, Will Helmers. That's 7 guys right there who are immediately gone as part of your normal attrition, because they're out of eligibility. I mean, you look at a guy like Milazzo and Travinsky, they were here 5 years and did a lot for the program and contributed a lot in 2024, and obviously did the run to the national championship and before. Christian Little, Will Helmers. I mean, you got a guy like Mac Bingham, Nate Ackenhausen, who were transfers in. They're gone now. So those 7, gone. When I look at the draft eligible guys for LSU, I count 15. Now, not all of those are created equal. Not all 15 of those guys are going to get drafted. Not all 15 of those guys even are ready to take the next step. Some of them you expect to be back. Others have decisions to make. Others are gone. No questions asked. They're going to get drafted plenty high enough, and they're going to sign. Guys I would throw into that category right now, Luke Holman. Luke Holman could potentially play him, or could potentially find himself, I should say, in like that first compensation round after the first round. He's definitely going in the top 50 picks, and he will sign. The same thing with Gage Jump. The way Gage Jump came on at the end of this season, he's definitely going to be in the top 60 picks, most likely the top 50. He will sign, he will go. Thatcher Hurd will sign and go, and he should. I mean, you could say, well, what about he didn't have a good season? That's fine. They're going to draft him strictly off stuff and potential, and it does him no good to give up his leverage and come back. Like, you've seen what it looks like with him when it's good. Major league teams are going to say, okay, come on, here's money. Come on, and we'll mold you. We'll help you with all the mechanical issues that you went through and all that, and we'll get you on the fast track to the major leagues. Tommy White's going to be a first-round pick. He's not coming back. We all knew that. So, like, those guys are for sure gone. Then there's draft-eligible guys that I think you expect to be back. Somebody like Josh Pearson. Pearson's a Louisiana kid, bleeds purple and gold. His younger brother, John, is coming into the program in 2025. It'd be really cool for them to play together. That's a guy who you need as a veteran in your lineup. He'd have a starting spot locked down. Like, is he really that projectable to the next level? Probably not. But he's a draft-eligible guy, but you expect him back. So you have guys in that category. You also have some draft-eligible guys that have decisions to make, not only about their draft, like to stay or go, but also transfer portal, potentially. Stay at LSU, transfer, or go to the draft. Like, that type of stuff. And we can get into them. And then you have somebody like Michael Braswell, I think, is extremely interesting. Because Michael Braswell had a good enough season to get himself drafted. Where I'm not really totally sure on that yet. And I don't really know, at least I don't think he's that projectable of a guy to the next level. Just because, I mean, he's not a huge power hitter. Now, he's a great contact hitter, and you really saw him take a giant step offensively. The glove is good enough. He wouldn't stick at shortstop at the next level, but he could absolutely play second base in pro baseball. And I think, like I said, he had a season good enough, like plenty good enough, to be drafted. If he were to come back, he would lose his leverage. So it makes sense for a guy like that maybe to go. Where I stand on Braswell right now, more than a month out from the draft, probably 50-50. But it would not shock me at all if that guy leaves. I think a guy like Javen Coleman is incredibly interesting. Javen Coleman has his redshirt year left. Like, he has an extra year that he could come back. I'm not expecting that. Javen Coleman is going to get, like, the Dodgers offered him $500,000 last year, like the 15th round. And he came back with leverage and enough look at his stuff. I mean, this is a guy that can get up to 94, 95 from the left side. You get him in a major league organization. Can they fix his command issue? They're going to think so. And with a year of leverage, he can still get a pretty nice price tag. He spurned the draft once, come back. Season did not go how he planned. It stands to reason a guy like that, if and when he gets drafted again, probably goes, right? So, you know, you look at guys like Braswell, like Coleman, their decisions are interesting. And then you look at a guy like Pearson, and you kind of expect him to be back. Then you have this crop of draft-eligible sophomores. And that's where it really gets interesting, because each of them is different. And we'll start with Jared Jones. Jared Jones in 2024 was awesome. There really is no other way around that. Jared Jones hit .301 with 28 homers, 59 RBI. The 28 homers led LSU. The 28 homers were the most by a Tiger since Matt Clark hit 28 in 2008. The 59 RBI were second on the team. Jared Jones was really, really good. Were the strikeout numbers still high? Yes. But the percentage and everything around it was actually better than 2023. And when you look at Jared Jones in the regional, that's where I think Jared Jones really made himself some money. because that was national spotlight for LSU. All eyes on that. Y'all, LSU had 3 out of the 4 most watched regional games of the weekend. 2 of them were the most watched regional games ever on ESPN networks. Both the North Carolina game Saturday, the North Carolina game on Monday, and then the LSU-Wofford game. So there was a lot of eyes on a guy like Jared Jones, and he had a fantastic weekend in Chapel Hill, and I think that made him plenty of money. Like, if you look at Jared Jones in that Chapel Hill regional, and you're looking at 7 hits. He left the yard a couple of times. But what was most impressive was the patience at the plate. It's what we had talked about all offseason and all year with Jared Jones, was the patience at the plate. Could the chase, could he improve the chase? Could he improve pitch recognition and really take his game to the next level? And you saw that no more on full display than in the Chapel Hill Regional. You're looking at 9 walks. 9 walks for Jared Jones that weekend, along with the 7 hits. And when I think he helped himself and made himself a lot of money. So it's a very interesting choice for him. Could he come back and improve his draft stock? Maybe. But by how much? The power is what it is. Okay, he showed right there, on one of the biggest stages you can be on, that, yeah, the chase has gotten better and the pitch recognition has gotten better. He's going to play first base. He fielded, I think it was 990 at first base. 991. Jared Jones fielded 991 at first base this year. He was awesome. Everyone had him under such a spotlight replacing Trey Morgan. He was awesome. End of argument. There isn't even an argument, but if there was, end of it right there. And he hit 301. He hit 300 twice. His 2 years in college. Hit 14 and then 28 homers. Like, I don't really know what else he could do to improve his draft stock much, unless he comes back and hits like 340, but everything else stays the same. And I fully expect Jared Jones to go off the board in the first 3 rounds. Like, if round 4 gets there and Jared Jones is still on the board, I'm going to be surprised. And if he goes off the board in the first 3 rounds, I think he's signing, and I think he should. Because teams can maneuver money around, and we talk about it every year with the draft. Like, if Jared Jones goes in the top 5 rounds, I would expect him to go and sign. But top 3 specifically. So I'll be honest, it's a choice Jared Jones has to make, but as of right now, I'm not expecting him back at LSU. And that's going to be a big loss if and when that happens. Griffin Herring is incredibly interesting. Because if Griffin Herring wants to come back and improve his draft stock, he absolutely can. And the way to do that is be a starting pitcher. Starting pitchers get drafted in the first round. Starting pitchers get paid the money. Relievers don't. Now, it's not just to say if Herring comes back and is one of LSU's ace guys on the weekend to start games and has a great year that he's going to be a first-round pick. There's other things that he would have to do. You'd probably want to see a little bit of a tick up in velocity. A little bit, not much. I mean, Herring's pretty consistent, 92, 93. He might bump a 94 every now and then, but could you get him a little higher, maybe up to where, Gage Jump is, where it's 93, 94 and bumping a 95? That would be great for him. I hear people talk about Griffin Herring having 2 pitches. Griffin Herring had 2 pitches this past season for LSU because that's what was working for him out of the bullpen. When Griffin Herring came to LSU, he had 4 pitches: fastball, slider, curve, change. So they're there. And you saw him utilize that as a freshman a little bit, even out of the pen. What you would need is a little bit more refinement there. But if Griffin Herring comes back, he would get every opportunity to be a starting pitcher. And if he succeeds at that, that could absolutely improve his draft stock. Now, here's the other part of that. Does a team look at him and say, hey, we've seen what you can do. We love the slider. Come work. Here's some money. Come work with us. We're going to develop you into a starting pitcher. Add some more mile per hour to your fastball. Help those secondary pitches. And is that enticing enough to make him leave when he looks back at LSU and says, okay, I have to at least go back there and compete for the starting role? Whereas they're just going to take me and develop me immediately. He has the most fascinating decision to make out of the draft eligible sophomores for me, because I think he's the one guy that can really come back and elevate his draft stock. So we'll see. You'd love to have him back. It's no guarantee. Gavin Guidry's a draft eligible sophomore, and he's very interesting. Gavin Guidry, Louisiana guy, and that matters for sure. You see the passion, the fire that he has for the team when he's out there on the field. He wants the ball in his hands at all time. I mean, think back to the regional final. He's sitting there, guy threw 40 pitches the night before. He's in Jay Johnson's ear on Monday night, wanting to get into the game. Like, put me in the game, put me in the game. He wants that. The interesting thing there is, does he want to be PO'd? And that's something that he's been vocal about on the record, saying he doesn't want to be pitcher only. But so far at LSU, that's what he's been. And that's probably what he's going to continue to be. I don't think Gavin Guidry has a role in the infield at LSU. Has he come to, terms with that? I don't know. If he has, then I think you absolutely get him back, because it's just not projectable enough right now at the next level. He would need to add weight. He'd need to add mile per hour to the fastball. He'd need to continue to develop a secondary pitch other than the slider. But I think what could really play there is if he's at peace with what his role will be. The Louisiana tie could be very important. Having that guy just to be able to wear that jersey, compete for LSU, kid from Lake Charles, like, that could matter there. That's somebody you would absolutely want back from a pitching standpoint, because he immediately makes the back end of your bullpen better. And he got better this year, especially late in the season. His last 11 outings, he didn't allow an earned run. Like, he was awesome. So, that's one. And then there's Paxton Clean. And Paxton Clean, with all the tools, somebody could take a flyer on him, but it's not going to be super early. I think the thing with Paxton Clean, I think he actually falls more into the category of, he has to decide if he wants to stay at LSU and try to continue to develop and compete for an outfield spot, because he would have to compete right now because of what you saw from Jake Brown at the end of the year. Like, Jake Brown looks like he's going to be your starting center fielder, correct? They went to him heavy late in the season, and he produced. He responded. He's got a great career ahead of him. Or does Paxton Clean want to enter his name in the portal, go play somewhere else, put up some numbers, and then get drafted? That's going to be something interesting. I think he absolutely tests the draft waters while making a decision on his future. But interesting decision. There's other guys that fall into that category who are draft eligible that, you look at potentially them moving on. A guy like Justin Lohr. Now, I would tell you this. I think Justin Lohr is one of the more important players that LSU needs to have back next year. I'd like to see him have a second year of work with Nate Yeske and see if that year going through the SEC helps him at all to where he can be the guy at the back end of a bullpen that we thought he could be coming into LSU out of Xavier. That's a guy that has been through the wars that I think would be really beneficial coming back to LSU. But that's a decision that he will have to make. He transferred once, came here, didn't go totally as planned for him. I wouldn't say. I mean, he got plenty of run, but the results were a struggle. I mean, I look at Justin Lohr. Justin Lohr led LSU in appearances out of the bullpen. 26 appearances. So, opportunity's still here for him, especially with development. He just has to make his decision. Is he ready to start pro baseball? Because I think somebody would take a flyer on him. Or does he want to go somewhere else for one more year? I don't know. I think he's a very important person to have come back. When you look at other guys there, Brady Neal is a name you hear a lot right now around transfer portal rumors, and Brady has a decision to make there, and he'll take his time with that, no doubt, and he'll do that as all these guys will, and he'll talk with the coaching staff and everything about that. He'll go off and play summer ball and things like that. But, I mean, if I look at guys who I specifically go, man, they have a decision about their future. We talked about Braswell. We talked about Justin Lohr. Just mentioned Brady Neal. Cam Johnson's another guy where Cam Johnson's probably in that realm of, highly touted guy who was never supposed to end up on campus, comes in, has a great fall, and then is used sparingly throughout. Does he look elsewhere? You see that in college sports all the time now. And yeah, that's for sure a possibility. Don't know what he's going to do. Don't know if that's really something that he wants to do. Maybe he wants to stay here. I know they would love him to stay here. I would love him to stay here. You would love him to stay here. Because I think you did see signs at points this year. He just needs a little bit more refinement, a little bit more work. Jaden Newt is incredibly intriguing in that regard. Highly touted guy. Wasn't supposed to make it to campus. Does. Misses a whole year with injury, redshirt. Works his way back, gets one outing, gets hurt again. Is he ready to move on and go somewhere else? Like, you have those guys. I think Brady Neal falls into that category too. Neal, highly touted guy. Didn't necessarily know who was going to be here. Has had opportunity, but never has really been able to stick in that starting role, albeit because of injuries or, a multitude of issues. And that's why you have guys like that looking potentially elsewhere. But Jay's a great recruiter. And he'll go in there and he'll try to re-recruit these guys and whatnot. And, none of them are out the door yet. Like, you've got 3 guys who have officially entered the portal in Austin Rolig, Micah Bucknam, and Aiden Moffet winning on Wednesday. We're going to get to Moffet momentarily. So, you have a handful of those guys. I didn't mention Fidel Ulloa in the draft eligible thing, and I need to. That's an intriguing one because Fidel Ulloa is 95-96 with a filthy slider. He's got major league reliever stuff already. He's draft eligible coming in from junior college. I think watching him early in the year, I assumed, okay, that's going to be a one-year guy, and he's out the door. I'm really intrigued in his decision. He is another one right up there with Lure. I think, man, if you could get him back, that's a massive boost to your bullpen. I just don't know if you do. Like, if I had to make a prediction right now, I would say Fidel Ulloa probably goes pro, and that's rough. So, you see what I mean when we're talking about guys entering the portal, guys entering the draft, guys who are just out of eligibility. It's a lot of them. Y'all, we went through it with Jones, White, Braswell. You could only return Steven Milam. That's a real possibility from your starting infield. Travinsky and Milazzo are gone. If Brady Neal decides to not stick around, what's all 3 of your catchers? It's going to look different. Like, I can sit here, and we'll get into portal needs right here momentarily. I can sit here and make an argument, and a lot of you are going to look at me cross-eyed and think I'm crazy, and I don't blame you for what I'm about to say, but I can sit here and make an argument to you that what you have to replace out of your lineup in 2024 is more difficult than what you had to replace out of your lineup in 2023. I can make that argument. I get it. You had to replace Dylan Cruz, Cade Beloso, Trey Morgan, Gavin Dugas, Jordan Thompson, go down, Braden Jobert, go down the list. Awesome players. But in hard to replace. You saw that this year. But in doing so, you also had an eye towards 2024. Say, well, Tommy White's back. Jared Jones is back. Hayden Travinsky's back. Milazzo, who turned into a really nice offensive option for you down the stretch, is back. And all of that. That's just 2 Louisiana guys who want to be in the lineup, give you that veteran presence like a Dugas, like a Beloso did. And then you have the star power in Jones and Travinsky, Jones and White. You don't have that. You don't. Like, your one Louisiana guy that you'd pencil in would be Josh Pearson. You feel great about Milam, Brown, and Larson, but what you lack is the power that White and Jones provide. That guy's not on the roster right now. And that is one of LSU's biggest portal needs, and that's where we'll go right now. Power bat. We talked about that a little bit in the What Went Wrong show. LSU didn't land that big bat out of the transfer portal for the first time in Jay Johnson's tenure in Baton Rouge. They're going to need to. You need to replace the home run production. LSU's home run total as a team in Jay Johnson's 3 seasons, 114, 144, 114. Looking at it right now, you don't have a 20 home run guy on this team that I feel comfortable predicting that, like you could with Tommy White or Jared Jones. You saw Jared Jones at 14 as a freshman. You knew, okay, that guy's going 20. And he hit 28. Milam, Larson, Brown played a lot of baseball, did very good things offensively, can lead your can be the guys you look to lead your offense. None of them are hitting 20 home runs at this point right now. Where's your veteran presence in the lineup outside of Josh Pearson? Like you had with Travinski and Milazzo. You don't have it. Power bat. Big need out of the portal for LSU. Infield. Arguably the biggest need. You need infielders. We just went through it. You could literally only return Steven Milam. I know they're very high on Ryan Kucherak. You saw him get a little bit of run at points this year, but it would be like him stepping in as a freshman. I think not only infield, but one of the biggest questions is corner infield. Like that's going to be something we talk about a lot heading into next season is who plays the corners for LSU. And you've got a few guys in the recruiting class that you could bring in, and LSU's recruiting class is incredibly deep, and you're going to have to battle the draft hard for a lot of it, but it's such a deep class that the guys you do get here, if they flip a switch, like they can be in the lineup as a freshman. Like Jake Brown was, like Steven Milam, like Ashton Larson. Like you've got dudes like that coming in, but that's never a spot where you want to rely on that. Infield, huge. And the third one is starting pitching. Like, there are names I can give you for guys who can potentially break into LSU starting rotation. Like, everyone assumes Chase Shore's Friday night guy, and you should assume that. But it's not set in stone. The guy's coming back off of Tommy John. We've seen this before. It takes guys time to build back up into the season. We talked about Griffin Herring. That's an option. Cam Johnson, what's he going to do? That's one thing I think that they have working for them potentially is, I mean, that guy's going to get every opportunity to be a starting pitcher at LSU if he wants it. Cade Anderson, same thing. Like that's 4 guys right there. Jaden Newt, that's 5. There's a lot. But we had this same conversation heading into the 2023 offseason. We had the same conversation heading into the 2024 offseason, and LSU went out and got starting pitching in the transfer portal. Whether it was Paul Skeens, Gage Jump, Thatcher Hurd, Luke Holman. They're going to do it again, and they should. They 100% should. It's like quarterback. You always see teams in the market for quarterback in the transfer portal because it's the most important position in team sports. In baseball, momentum is only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. You got to feel great in that guy. And if you have an opportunity to add one, you do it. And if it's a guy who is a bona fide, like a Luke Holman, bona fide starter in this league who you know is going to come in and succeed, and you have a chance to add him, you do it. Even if it's a guy like Gage Jump, where, man, the potential's there. It's still a little bit of an unknown. But if we get that guy and he's healthy, we know he can start. That's what LSU did with Gage Jump, and it worked. You take the opportunity, you add those guys, and they will. Even with Shores, Herring, Newt, Cam Johnson potentially, Cade Anderson, even with all those guys who could potentially be starting pitchers for you depending on what their decisions are, LSU needs to go add starting pitching, and they will. Those are my top 3. Infield, power bat, starting pitching. Some of those can go hand in hand. You want to go find a big slugging first baseman? Go do it. Slugging third baseman? Go do it. Because when I look at LSU's recruiting class, y'all, it's, like I said, it's really deep. But, I mean, I look at the top 3 in it, Connor Griffin, Cam Caminetti, William Schmidt. I'm not expecting those guys on campus. That's the top 3 in your class. You know, you look at a guy like Boston Bateman. That could be a top 50 pick. Don't necessarily. He's a left-handed pitcher. Huge human being. Not really expecting that. You got a stud catcher in there that could also fall into the top 50 picks. Not totally counting on that. Now, you might get Derek Curiel here, which would be awesome. I mean, you've got first baseman and third baseman in there, 2 of them who are actually very talented. But it's just, can you get them to campus? If you can they break in? If they do, you're still relying on a freshman, which isn't great when you're going to lack veteran experience in the lineup. So that's why you have to go get veteran infielders and a power bat. It could be the biggest turnover of the roster in the Jay Johnson era. And quite honestly, that's what I'm expecting this offseason. Because of everything we went through. The guys who are just out of eligibility, the guys who are draft eligible, guys who have decisions to make about their own future. I do want to say a few words on Aiden Moffet entering the transfer portal. While it's not overly surprising, I don't think many of you would be caught off guard by that news. I think it is disappointing because I really liked what I saw from Aiden Moffet this year at times. You could really see him start to develop, and the stuff, when it's good, is great. And I would have loved to have seen him potentially stay for his junior year, have another year with Nate Yeske, and get moving because he did improve. Like, the guy pitched one game in 2023 as a freshman and didn't get anybody out. When I saw him in the inner squads, he still could not throw the ball over the plate consistently enough to get outs. His innings consistently had to be stopped. And then in the middle of the year, he's in there pitching really well against Tennessee. Like, that is one of the outings that stands out most to me from his time this season, was the one against Tennessee. On the road, hostile environment, tough ballpark to pitch in, arguably against the best team in the nation, and he pitched really well. And there were others. Like, there were other outings throughout the year that he had that were good, but I think you saw the potential, and that's a guy who's going to get a lot of big-time interest and should because of the potential and what you saw at LSU, and I'll be very interested to see where he lands because I'm hopeful that LSU doesn't have to see him. He's from Mississippi, so keep that in mind. I think that could be a guy who, if he lands in the right spot, could find it and have a really into having a really nice season next year in a college career. So while it's not surprising, while that one was kind of expected, given a guy who is as highly touted as he is, struggled to get on the field, things of that nature, I think it is disappointing because when you did see him at times this year, he looked pretty darn good in certain moments. So it's going to be a really interesting offseason, y'all. The transfer portal, you're going to really need to watch it, both for guys entering from LSU and guys LSU has coming in. I know it's, easy to look at what we just talked about and be doom and gloom about it. All the guys that we talked about aren't leaving. Like, even the guys with decisions to make, some of them are going to decide to stay. The entire team is not going to the draft. The entire team is not out of eligibility. The entire team is not entering the transfer portal. Could you see some contributors? Yes. Guys who started? No. But it will be interesting to watch. And this will be fluid. It'll change a lot over the next, few weeks, months, whatever. We'll have you covered with it here on Musso at the Box. Y'all smash the like button, get subscribed, share, subscribe on YouTube, on your favorite podcast app, all of the above, man. You should follow me on social media. All of it greatly, greatly appreciated. And y'all be here next time. That really kind of completes the offseason for us until there's news. Like, until there's something that happens, this is pretty much the end for now. Not goodbye, just see you later. So get subscribed, set your notifications as well so you do see when we pop back up. I have a feeling it won't be super long. But for our scheduled offseason content until the draft, this wraps it up. So appreciate everybody, obviously, for tuning in throughout the year and continue to keep tabs because we will pop in and out here fairly consistently because, like I said, this is going to be a really interesting offseason for LSU. So be here next time for more on Musso at the Box.